Hi, this is Rick, and this is a brief inductive sermon based on the inductive study devotions from today. Reading from Galatians chapter 1, 6 to 10, this is what we came up with in the inductive study video. How you can be sure you're connecting with Jesus rather than a fairy tale. How you can be sure that you're connecting with Jesus rather than a fairy tale. That is a problem in some churches even. That you go into a church and maybe as a new believer, you hear lots of believers all over the church. They're saying one thing and saying another, and you're not really sure what to believe. You know that you place your faith in Jesus, and then that leads to eternal life, that begins a friendship with God, but then lots of other content comes at you, and how do you know if you're receiving good content or not? Within the media, within Facebook and YouTube, and within books and magazines and on TV, we've got a lot of content, spiritual content coming towards us. And how do we know what content is right and what content is not right? How do we know that we're actually connecting with Jesus and not a fairy tale? Well, based on our inductive study today, this is how you know. First of all, how you can be sure you're connecting with Jesus rather than a fairy tale. First of all, be sure to filter the content. We got to make sure that any content that we receive, any content that comes towards us, we go to the Bible, and if we can see it in the Bible without having to do mental gymnastics, if we can see it clearly stated in the Bible and we say, aha, that's something that I can embrace as truth. So filter the content. Don't believe everything that comes at you, even if it's coming from a Christian, even if it's coming from an angel. Don't believe all the content that's coming to you until you go to the Bible and you can say, I can clearly see it in the Bible, so that's truth. Second of all, be sure it's coming from Jesus. One of the wonderful things about the gospel is that it doesn't come from a person, it doesn't come from a school, it comes from Jesus himself, and that was yesterday's sermon, uh, inductive sermon. Jesus revealed the gospel message to Paul, and then Paul shared what Jesus has revealed. The church didn't make up the gospel. No person did, no school did. Jesus told us this is what you do in order to have eternal life. This is what you do to have fellowship, to get reconnected with God. Jesus has revealed that. So when we're receiving any kind of spiritual content and we're wondering, is this truth or not? We go to the Bible, and if it's coming from Jesus, we know it's true. But if some of it is coming from Jesus and some other parts of it are not from Jesus, then just reject the whole thing and say, I'm only receiving what comes from Jesus. Then finally, how can you be sure you're connecting with Jesus rather than a fairy tale? I like that second point because Jesus speaks to him for himself. Thirdly, be sure only to communicate what Jesus has revealed in the Bible. You and I can foul up our community, can foul up our church, can foul up our group if you and I begin to spout our own ideas and spout our own opinions as though they're gospel truth, as though it's pure gospel, as Jesus said it. I need to be very careful in what I communicate, and I need to make sure that I'm only communicating what's in the Bible or what's coming from Jesus. Be sure that you only communicate what Jesus has revealed in the Bible so that you're not causing more damage than doing good. So how you can be sure you're connecting with Jesus rather than a fairy tale? Be sure to filter all the content that's coming your way. Make sure it's in the Bible. Second of all, make sure it's coming from Jesus. If Jesus is the source, you can trust it. If Jesus is not the source, don't trust it. And then finally, be sure only to communicate what Jesus has revealed in the Bible. Now, I know that I'm not going to be connecting with a fairy tale because I'm not seeding the conversations that I have with the community, with the group of friends that I'm in, with wrong material. I am only going to communicate what I know is true because it's in the Bible coming from Jesus. If you want to know how I came to my conclusions about what Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 to 10 really means, I'm going to invite you to look at the inductive Bible study. It's a longer one today. It's about 20 minutes. And in the inductive Bible study, we have a look at the content and material, and then you can find out, you can see how I arrived at my conclusions, how you can be sure you're connecting with Jesus rather than a fairy tale. God bless you.